shall we? What's going on here? Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 215. Right. Excuse my boomerisms, people, but I just can't seem to avoid them. Anyway. Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 215. As always, to give people a bit of chance to get into the stream, I'm going to start us off with an excellent tune from Chris Carr.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need, to wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wall. Your new God's sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace. Fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, what's love that heed and folly, bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of those ye humor are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, a loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise. Come thou to search your manhood,
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard, a genuine and good right-wing musician. Please go and check out his YouTube channel. Right, before we move on to today's stream, and first of all, could I say, Aubrey, please check the private chat. Can you, please? On here, on the right of the screen. Yeah, before we move on to today's stream, I've just got to say that the last stream I did with Aaron Hook, which was reasonably popular, and it was Aaron Hook's idea, and it was talking about when the losers write history, which we did on Wednesday, British time. We actually got two late super chats, and the first one we got was the biggest super chat I've ever got, which was $100 US from Vic. And so thank you very much to Vic if he watches this. He didn't ask a question, he just gave us a donation. And we also got a donation from our own patriotic archive from Mick, who sent us $15. So yeah, thank you very much for those. Because I'm now spending quite a lot of money on both the paid version of StreamYard and also the premium version of X, of Twitter, donations are always appreciated, and at the top of the chat, you will find a link to Entropy, and you can also ask us super chat questions there, which will always be answered at the end of the stream. I do say, what seems to happen is if you send them late in the stream, they don't always get through before the stream ends. So if you do have a super chat question that you want replied to, please send it like as early in the stream as you can. So yeah, thanks for that. Good evening to my guest this evening. I believe that Aaron Hook is going to join us in about half an hour. But so far we have Mitch, we have Hitman, and we have Aubrey. Aubrey is on here because we're going to be talking about an interesting American question this evening. Yeah, good evening, lady and gents.
Hello, good evening. Good to be back.
Same here.
Mitch came in eventually. So yeah, okay. As always, I'm going to ask people if they have a first topic for this evening. And ladies first. So Aubrey, did you have a first topic you wanted?
Why don't you go the other way? Because I didn't know I was going on until the last second. So
all right, fair enough. Well, while you're thinking of something, yeah. Mitch, did you? Mitch, did you have a first topic?
There's two, but I was saying because one but it's like Aubrey can have a lot of ones. So Trump is open to joining the Commonwealth if King Charles himself invites the Americans to join.
Yes, I've only just heard about this just before we went live. So yeah, it's an interesting idea for sure. What are your thoughts on this, Mitch?
It's a mix because on one hand, yeah, the whole point of the Commonwealth is that it's meant to be united behind like the monarchy and so on, which America as a republic doesn't believe in. So I don't know what will tie them in, unless I imagine we're all agreeing that like hopefully it anchors America back into a WASP identity, because America's not been the Anglo-Saxon Protestant country that should, well, Anglo-Saxon, I should say, anyway, doesn't matter, but Protestant. So, yeah, if Trump reorientates America back to its Anglo-Saxon roots, then, yeah, then that'll be one thing. I just think with America, like, they have gone straight a bit far away from our heritage. Not to say, like, irreparably, but because of the Ellis Island and also the Hart-Celler Act, that has muddied the waters a bit on which way America swings. Because there's like, for example, we have FDR in World War II, who had very anti-British sentiment, and you also have got Irish American classic paddies, as we all love to call them, or you might have, let's say, Hispanics in America who aren't too fond of the Anglos because they still can't accept stuff like the Alamo or Texas or the Mexican War, where states like California and Texas went into the American fold and so on.
I mean, on the other hand, Mitch, just in contrast to that, I'd say, countries like Chile, for example, but also most of the Latin American states had a lot of British help to get independence. So,
Yeah, but there's like a strong anti-Anglo sentiment to be noticeable amongst like the Mexicans in America, because it's still.
Oh yeah, the Mexicans for sure, but if you look at some of the Latin Americans, British naval heroes are quite high up there, like Cochrane, for example, who helped a couple of Latin American places get independence from Spain, and a lot of the so-called Latin American liberators were quite dependent on Wellington's veterans amongst their soldiers who were fighting as mercenaries.
Yeah, that's still a sore point among some Spanish nationalists. I find that it's still sore with us over a lot of our Napoleonic War veterans helping the likes of Chile, especially, get their independence. So,
Yep. Very true. Someone's making noise. I don't know who. Is that you?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought I had muted. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Hitman, what's your thinking about this?
Well, I've got rather mixed thoughts. There's to me, one bad way this could go and one good way this could go. So I'll get the bad one out of the way first. So this could be bad because I think the Commonwealth is a pretty posed institution, and this could just mean more posing and subverting of America. Because I think ultimately it's the Commonwealth through which a lot of the third world immigration has flooded into this country, about how a lot of the sort of foreign aid is given out to all these places like India and Pakistan and all these different African countries. So again, on one aspect, it could just lead to more of that in America, like undoing all of the US aid stuff by just America's now got to give all this aid to these third world countries and accept more Indian immigration. Because just going off of that, remember, obviously, before Christmas, we had the whole H-1B thing with Elon and Vivek. I mean, what if this is Elon's suggestion? Because remember, he is South African, so perhaps he wants America to have more connections with Britain and the Commonwealth. Maybe mainly because he wants these Indian H-1B workers still. Well, that's the negative reading. The more positive reading is that Trump and Elon still want to have these connections, and I think the better way to work on that is to join the Commonwealth. And then, because of how powerful the United States is, the United States will be the wealthiest, most powerful member of the Commonwealth if it joins, and so by joining, it has the virtue of being able to steer it in a direction that's more to its interest. If you catch what I mean.
Yeah, I do agree with you. My thoughts on this, just before we ask our American guest Aubrey Alley, is that first of all, I'd like to see the Commonwealth split into two sections. I'd like there to be a more important old Commonwealth part, which, in terms of historical sense, would be Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and back in the day, it used to include South Africa. And if the Americans wanted to join that, it'd probably be a good thing. Also, you've got to say there are a number of nations in the Commonwealth today, including, I believe, what's it called? The Congo, and also Mozambique, which were never British. I mean, they've got far less reason to be in the Commonwealth than the US has, because they were never British, One of them was Belgian and one was Portuguese. Why they're in the Commonwealth today, I simply don't understand, to be honest with you. But everything that Hitman and Mitch said about the problems with the Commonwealth is entirely true. I think one of the problems with King Charles amongst others. I'm no big fan of King Charles. But one of the problems with him is he seems to regard the Commonwealth in terms of the black and brown bits of it as more important than Britain, which I think is a problem. So yeah, there's that. But intrinsically, if Trump wants to do that, maybe it'd be a good idea. I mean, as I think Hitman said before we went live, it would almost be something that Cecil Rhodes would approve of. So yeah, I don't know. That's my thinking on this. What Aubrey Alley, you're an American. What do you think about America joining the Commonwealth?
So I think this is it's a very kind of bizarre out there idea, but I'm not sure that I really hate it. I don't really know how we handle like our constitution. I mean, yeah, our country was founded because we broke away from you guys, so it is a little bit awkward. But
you can be a republic, Aubrey. You can be a republic in the Commonwealth these days.
Right.
There are a number.
I get that. I think that you know, as far as like the immigration and stuff goes, about like the kind of the I guess the population that we've got here in the U.S., I don't think it looks that much different in your country now either.
Sadly.
I know. And so I don't know how we handle this situation. I don't know how you guys handle that situation, but you know, maybe we could, because I'm all for us getting kind of back to our Anglo-Saxon roots, you know, too. And having an actual culture, being allowed to have a culture would be wonderful, so that we're not like the evil enemies. But the other thing too, and this is just a minor thing really, but I think it would be kind of interesting about how it may change the opinions. Like the first time I was on your show, I was really surprised at some of the like anti-American sentiment. And I'm not saying that you guys are like America haters. And not you, Duke, but like some of the other people have come on there. I mean, like I remember one episode, it devolved into this like hour-long discussion about what if America invaded us? How would we handle that? And it just went from there. And I mean, you and I were both like, when would this possibly ever happen? But you know, it just kept going. So maybe that would actually help with some of the views on America from you guys, and you know, that we are your allies. We think of you guys as our allies, and so I was surprised to find out kind of the way that we're viewed a bit by you guys, our number one ally.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's a minor thing. I mean, obviously, you don't make that kind of you know, you don't make that kind of an action because of that.
No, fair enough. Or Briali, and you can come back in a minute. I just would want to point out that Padfer is saying in the chat, was it Lord Milner that proposed the idea of uniting the English-speaking nations? Milner was one of the supporters of this, but it wasn't him who suggested it. It started much earlier than that. And on one of our Historical Wednesday streams, I actually want to do a stream about the idea for Imperial Federation, which I believe started in probably the 1870s. Hitman will tell me if I'm wrong, I believe. But yeah, I think it started in the 1870s. It was first being talked about. And this is what I was talking about when I did my little bit, that I think there needs to be a separate old Commonwealth part, which, yes, it is Kanzuk in some ways, as people have said in the chat. But yeah, it's if there was a separate old Commonwealth bit for Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, if America wanted to join that, I'm not totally against that idea at all. But you know, that's my feeling on it. But I would really like to do a historical stream on the idea of Imperial Federation of the white English-speaking Commonwealth countries, which I think was the biggest missed opportunity that Britain had in the late 19th and very early 20th centuries. So,
no, absolutely.
Yeah. Carry on, Hitman.
Oh no, it's interesting because you know, AA has this expression, you know, I'm bending reality with my mind. Well, I actually feel a little bit like that with this subject because obviously some people watching know I did a stream with Samuel Golg earlier this year on the Anglo-American Establishment book by Carol Quigley, where we're looking at the Rhodes and the Milner Group and this idea of reincorporating the United States into the British kind of global world order. And also I did do an article for the Old Glory Club called The New Managerialism, looking at how Musk and Doge almost recreating a new kind of, Anglo elite within America. And it's really funny because I drew a comparison in the article between, the various young guys at Doge and Milner's kindergarten. And because that story broke about all these young men while I was writing that article, and I'm like, bloody hell, that's coincidental, isn't it? And then this story comes, and it's like I'm literally bending reality with my mind. Reality is conforming to my article. This is a bit disturbing. So
yeah. That's interesting. AI, you've just joined us. What do you think of this idea of America joining the Commonwealth?
Well, it's an interesting one because like Hitman was saying, when I was doing the Richard Hilton streams on my channel with Connor, Richard Hilton would regularly talk about the Imperial Federation, but in his mind, the future he viewed was the Union of South Africa and Rhodesia, the white ruling colonies in Africa, in the southern portion of Africa, as long as with Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And he just in his mind he viewed that. I think he viewed more of America as just being spent because it was taken over by the Ellis Island coalition, and that was his interpretation of it. He never fully went into saying the WASPs were completely overthrown because they weren't at that point. But in his mind, he viewed it as, America wasn't in a good place. When it comes to America joining the Commonwealth, I guess the thing is, at the moment, the Commonwealth is dominated by the Third Worldists.
Sadly,
It's dominated by the Indians. Yeah, it's dominated by the Indians. It's dominated by the Nigerians and Kenyans, Ugandans, and South Africans. I don't mean the white South Africans. I mean black South Africans. And so I guess if America joined, I guess for the Commonwealth, it may make it better, I guess, and more sort of an English speaking thing. But to be honest, I view the Commonwealth as just a terrible, gross bastardization of the legacy of the empire. I mean, it is really
now, today it is. This is why I say I'm a Kansuk supporter. I always have been, but it only really makes sense if you end up with based right of centre governments in all four countries. But if you had that, I'm completely in favour of serious Kansuk alliance. And if America wanted to join that, I don't think that would be a bad thing at all. I would also say, hang on a minute, Aubrey, I'm going to bring you back in a sec. I beg your pardon. I also want to say that, if Trump was to, and it's Trump who's suggesting this, by the way, if anyone's joined us late, if Trump joined the Commonwealth and talked about, certainly for the white bits, some sort of tariff union and that kind of stuff, that would be good for everyone concerned, including Britain. I mean, I'm fully in favor of tariffs and so on. And if I ever get to do this historical stream, which I hope people like Mitch and AI and Hitman would join, about the Imperial Federation, and incidentally, Horus is in the chat, who's a friend of the channel, who I want to have back on soon, I hope. And I've done streams with Horus going into some detail about imperial tariff preference and how that failed, largely thanks to people like Winston Churchill. If there are good aspects of it, possibly, depending how it worked out. Sorry, all reality.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just going to say, I mean, economically, I think, which is what you're getting at, I mean, our economies really need to be revived, and we need to get production back into both of our countries. And so, if we joined forces in that respect, that'd be a wonderful thing. And I think militarily too. I mean, you've talked about how the British military. How many ships do you guys have now?
Oh God, now you're going to embarrass me.
Sorry to bring it up again, but
oh yeah, we've got a whole 16 destroyers and frigates.
Right, and so
in 1982 we had about 70.
Right. I mean, that's insane. So if we were able to join forces in that respect and rebuild our militaries the way they should be without the freaking left, feminizing everything, that could be a wonderful thing. So, and maybe this would really help with your country's political alignment, getting toward the party that you guys are backing with Farage and folks.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's an interesting,
sense.
just thought kind of experiment.
I just noticed there were some Americans in the chat who were saying the Democrats would hate it, which I dare say is a good reason to support it.
Makes me absolutely want to do it tomorrow. For that reason alone.
Because I kind of suspect the left in Britain would hate it too, which is another reason that it might not.
Well, they would, because they would say that we are creating a white superpower, is what they would say, and they would say that we're essentially Nazis. That's exactly what they'd say.
Oh, for sure.
Trump is Hitler, of course. So we all know that.
Rather than a 90s American Democrat, which is really what he is, but okay.
Well, he did, he had the appearance at Madison Square Garden 80 years after Hitler, and so he's very Hitler-esque. Very
absolutely.
Hitler-esque.
Yeah, I mean, in the 90s he was a Democrat, but So I absolutely. Horace, yes, mate. Please, I'll send you a link for the next one I do next Wednesday. Don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but I've done about 4 or 5 streams with Horace, which I suggest you guys go and check. They are on. I think they're in a playlist on my channel. So Mitch, Hitman, AI. What are your thoughts on this before we move on to something else?
Sorry, just to address Horace in the chat there. So when you're on my channel, if you look at it's the Imperial Victory, the mysterious death of the British Empire. That is, I've got it listed on a part, like it's done via chapter. So part 1 is chapter 1, and so on and so forth. And I think this has got 10, 11, or 12 chapters. I can't remember what.
That's an excellent stream. I was actually a guest on 1 or 2 of those, and they really are good. And I think you haven't quite finished it yet, have you?
No, we've taken a break. Connor's had to he had to take a break a couple times, and so we're going to get back to it though soon. But I think the interesting one I think was either the chapter 6 or chapter 7 one. It's the more, I mean, with that one, it's the later chapters where when it gets more to. I guess, quote unquote, modern day in his respect, 1950s, 1960s, where you're really getting the juicy content. So I enjoy that sort of late chapters is a real gem. If you're interested, I mean, on the stuff. I don't know. I know that a lot of my, even Connor, where we've had this discussion off stream, but with this, we're looking at the state of Britain and the state of the United States. Now, I have this view that America is in a worse position than Britain on probably more of, not on the cosmetic level, but a sort of maybe you could say like spiritual level than. And I know that the majority of the view is the other way, but. That being said, if America joined the Commonwealth, as
far as getting away from from the Christian base, is that what you're talking
about? I don't. Well, this is the thing. The way that because I know that this is the America is more there's more church, there's more temporal connection than anything else. But what I sort of view is that I view that there are some, like particularly in America, a lot of the churches are just devoid of any spirituality. I mean, I think there are a lot of them who um a lot of them that I see worship certain people in the Middle East, for example. That's one thing I've never really fully. I understand where it comes from. There's like I understand the concept of where it comes from, but just it's these sorts of subtle things of on a societal level, which it kind of it is where I think a lot of the anti-Americanisms, I guess you could say, originate. Where there's like this view, actually, it's more on a spiritual level. It's actually like in the psyche of the American people, and that's where you're going into the sort of Evler territory. That's where it sort of veers off into. They're just they're morally corrupt, and the people in the Slavs in the East are physically and spiritually corrupt, and all that sort of stuff, and Europe squeezed in between. Europe gets squeezed in between. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think if America joined the Commonwealth, I don't think it would make much of a difference to America. I mean, Mark Carney, who's become the Prime Minister of Canada, has been
until the election. Let's be clear.
yeah,
There's going to be an election in Canada shortly, and when there is, I'll be trying to get Endeavour back on here, who is a Canadian, to comment on it. So
yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, but Mark Carney, his one, I think, his like speeches, and it's not just one. It's been several now. He's been harking back to Canada's proud British heritage. I mean, he's also so proud French heritage, but proud British heritage. Which is a total U-turn of the Liberal policy in Canada, because of course it was the Liberals who were the ones that decoupled Canada's heritage and culture and connection to the motherland.
And just to interrupt you for 1 second, Carney was, of course, a former head of the Bank of England, and he's a total globalist. I mean, all this stuff about all this stuff about Canadian heritage and all the rest of it is merely a con job to try and get people to vote for him at the upcoming election. It's a con job.
Yeah,
he's a globalist.
And the trouble is, it kind of has worked, because a lot of I guess the Conservatives, that Poilievre fella, did a lot of signal boosting Trump like MAGAisms, and the trouble was now, and this is something we've talked about in our previous episodes, where is actually because of the Canadian backlash to Trump's attitude towards Canada and joking about like the 51st state idea and all that sort of stuff, is actually emboldened liberals to almost behave like this sort of like nationalistic anti-American.
Look, but the thing I have liked, AI, is that good Canadians, like good right of centre nationalist Canadians, a lot of those guys, and you'll often see them with the old red Canadian ensign flag in their bios and so on.
Yeah.
Those guys have launched a campaign saying that they were Canadian nationalists long before Trump. So,
Yeah. But I mean, the trouble is the Conservatives have sort of been left out in the lurch in Canada, because in many ways that it is. I guess looking back, I think their mistake was probably being a bit too MAGA, because because now it tied them to Trump, and then it's allowed them to be outflanked. I mean, I will say that the Liberals have the Liberal turnaround in Canada has been probably far more successful than the Labour attempt of outflanking on the right. That's how I sort of view it. But I mean, at the end of the day, with America, I don't think it make really much blind bit of difference, because the trouble is with the Commonwealth is it's a way for minority groups in third world countries to just berate the British.
At the moment, AI, I totally agree with you, which is why I say you need an old Commonwealth bit, which would be the basically Anglo-Celtic bit. But
can I just respond very quickly to that?
Yeah, go for it.
You know, so I think that you're right in some respects about America and faith and stuff. But I live in the Bible Belt here, and you know, I think that you've got to remember that we've had some pretty big movements lately. For one thing, with electing Trump, you know, the Christian base is who did that, and also, I mean, we've overturned Roe v. Wade. You know, I think there is a Christian base still that's very strong. I think that again, the media portrays America in a way that I would have to like heartily disagree with. You know, they put the really extreme like liberals on there all the time. I know you guys know this. I know you know that if you watch like Fox, for instance, it's going to be way different than what you're going to see on MSNBC or CNN. But yeah, I think we're kind of misrepresented a bit. I think we're a lot more just kind of down to earth. Like I'm a Midwesterner, so you know, in the Bible Belt. But I do think that the Christian faith is still strong here. I really do. I do take your point though that about a lot of the churches now are just kind of, you know, the young. We go and we just have motivation and we listen to like rock music and whatever. But anyway, I just had to say that.
No, I agree. I agree with Aubrey about that, and she is correct that the mainstream media portrays America quite differently to how it really is. But I mean we all know that because look at what happens in Britain, you know.
I mean, I would also say I don't doubt that. I mean, in the media, it's been talked about that in the media. I mean, going back 40, 50 years, Southerners are always depicted as racist, idiots, and bigots, and even in like the Bond film, that one where he was in that Roger Moore one when he was in the South, the Southerners there were sort of depicted as the white Southerners was depicted as these sort of that was that sheriff who was that depicted as that bigoted.
Hollywood is always a lie.
Yeah, live and let die.
And Hollywood is always a lie. We know this, and like we watch films today, even from the 70s, where you can see the multi-culti feminist thing being pushed all the time. I mean, at the time, we probably didn't notice it, but you certainly do when you watch them today.
Yeah, no, true, and I mean, and also it does swing back the other way because as you know, Andrew, I raised this a few months ago, probably a couple months ago now. But when you had the story around the grooming gangs, you had a lot of MAGA accounts online, who and this is the thing, a lot of these social influencers, MAGA accounts, and I'm not saying the Trump supporters are con artists, but these certain MAGA accounts do appear to be quite con artists in their sort of demeanor. They do appear to be quite they do appear to be con artists, especially ones that
how is that? I'm not understanding. Can you explain that?
How they like behave in a con artist sort of way. Well, the way that a lot of them have like these connections with well, I say first of all, there was the one that does the magazine, the cartoon one. It was around the grooming gangs, and it was his depiction of and probably Mitch and Hitman remember this one. It's where he shows a young girl being carried off by Muslim men, and it was the father was saying, "Oh, be quiet, honey, because something hate speech law or something like that." And it basically the narrative of that was, parents are allowing their children to be raped by Muslims because they want to appear to be racist or something like that. And
I guarantee that is not the view of the majority of any MAGA supporters. I mean, that didn't come from like any of the MAGA actually like administrators. That I mean, that's some just random person, right?
Well, it is. Well, it
Yeah,
isn't because
hang on,
hold
hang on, guys.
hold on.
Hang on, guys. I think
Sorry,
we're.
no,
I think
Andrew,
we're.
this is very this is very
All right,
important
all
because
right,
this
all
is
right.
sorry. This is very important. I did say, Aubrey, that it was social media accounts. Ian Chung Lee, right? Stone Toss the Stone Toss people. So people who are in the MAGA sphere, who are. I mean, yeah, the average MAGA person wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't put that out there, but this was being put out there, and I
mean,
am
that
aware
could
that
even be somebody on the left claiming to be a
Yeah,
MAGA
yeah. Hang
person.
on, hang on a minute, Aubrey Ali.
Sorry.
Look, AI. I think we're talking slightly to cross purposes here, because the thing is, those in air quotes MAGA accounts you're talking about, many of them are not even American.
I know that's what's really
Yeah,
bizarre.
thank
It's
you.
like
That's why I wanted you to say it, because that's the point. That many of them are not even Americans, so they're not really MAGA people. They're just using that label.
well,
Because
yeah,
that's not something that somebody typical of the right that would back at all. Saying parents are letting. I mean, we agree with you guys. I mean, I know you guys call me a normie, but sorry, there's a plane going overhead. You guys call me a normie, but I typically agree with you guys on almost all views, and I'm not even a far right. So I think
Let me just say, Aubrey Ali,
yeah.
the only reason you ever get called a normie by me is that you maybe don't follow politics quite so obsessively as some of
Well,
us.
maybe not
As
British
some of us do,
politics,
as you know.
but
Yeah,
American
yeah.
politics I do, but not.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
So
I'm not in
I
any way
but
criticizing
you guys
I'm
just do
just.
it because I said the name Ben Shapiro last time. That's why. So, sorry
but
for the sin of saying that.
It's all right. It's all right. Don't worry
but
about it, Aubrey.
I mean, with that instance, I took exception because I knew that a lot of Americans who were liking and retweeting it did it because they probably didn't. Because it isn't. It's a. If you're not from the UK, there's a good chance you wouldn't have heard of that particular story, especially if you're plugged into. I mean, I know that Americans were. Some of them are in our circles are plugged into it, so they would have heard it, but the majority wouldn't have heard it in its entirety.
Right.
And
I didn't
what?
know about these grooming gangs until
No,
you guys. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I was really angry about, and I will say, I think my anger got the better of me on this particular occasion, was that there were parents who did fight back against it, who
Yes, they
did
did. They
fight
are.
back against it, and
And they
were
got
arrested
arrested.
and beaten up, death threats, some of them even severely assaulted. And then you had like the response was to that when I was highlighting like several even linking several cases of pretty violent responses and when the police were arrested the parents, that it was like, well, if it was my child I would have gone round there with a gun and everything. And that was just, well, number one, I think you're talking out your backside, because I don't think you would have done. And on second account,
Some of us would have done AI, I can assure you.
the people responding and people who are liking Ian Chung Lee
Yeah,
tweets
no,
wouldn't
absolutely.
have done.
But the point is, Ian Chung Lee is not an American, let alone a real MAGA supporter, as Aaron Hook is pointing out, and Richard Phillips in the chat. He's not an American, and he's certainly nothing really to do with the actual MAGA movement. So,
And the people on the left are the ones that would follow that suit, where they would say, I mean, that's what they've done over here, where they won't arrest people that are minorities because we can't touch them, so I mean that's totally what like we on the right are fighting. I mean that's what's happening in our cities now. Prosecutors aren't prosecuting crimes because they can't touch anybody that's a minority.
can I just before I bring in Aaron Hook, and good evening, Aaron, could I ask Hitman, because Hitman I know has done streams with the excellent Semiagog, and I like Semiagog. He's a good American, and he often is one of those Americans who points out that some of the things that the right in Britain points out about America are not, entirely true of the ordinary people. So I just wanted to bring Hitman on this. So Hitman, yeah.
Well, my view is that I think there's certain people you should listen to who are intelligent and thoughtful, like Semyagog, and then there's absolute slop merchant who you should just not listen to. Like the George Alexopoulos. He makes funny cartoons, but yeah, he's a bit of a slop merchant. Not gonna lie. So you should always, I think, always try to be as best informed as you can, and be respectful towards. And only listen to people who have got intellectual integrity and don't just want just be a grifter, basically.
I mean, I would just say, look, I listen to the Old Glory Club in America, of Americans, and they're generally pretty damn good. I'm a big fan of the Distributionist, who is another American, although I think he's living in Canada at the moment because his wife is Canadian. He's another excellent, good guy. I mean, as Hitman said, you've got to pick and choose who you listen to. If you listen to idiots, you're going to get idiot views, basically.
And Duke,
Exactly.
you and I, we talk to Mitch about this all the time and say that, his view, sorry, Mitch, his view of America is not really what he would find here. I mean, you take away like the extreme coasts, right? Because that's where they're crazy, the extreme east or the extreme west. And then you got the rest of the country, and we're pretty down to earth people. I mean, I don't think we're very dissimilar at all from you guys. And the people in the South, they're the boys that keep us safe. They're the boys that make up the backbone of our military. So,
Yes, absolutely true, Aubrey Alley. And I just want to say to Mitch, and
I'm sorry.
I'm going to bring Mitch in a minute. To be fair to Mitch, I think since Trump won the election and has actually started doing something, and this is something we're going to come on to about British politics later on, the difference between Trump this time and Trump last time is that this time he got a very good team around him, that is also fairly diverse in views, right? They're not all, they don't all have the same view, and yet he's actually doing stuff because he got a good team around him. And like I say, we're gonna come back to that in terms of British politics in a bit. But Mitch, like I said, I think you have considerably changed, shall we say, since Trump won the election and Trump actually started doing good stuff. So, Mitch, what's your stuff? And then I'll bring Aaron Hook in because he's just joined us.
Well, you factor America. I mean, Trump's got his limitations because of the way the Constitution works, but the fact is, he's actually got the will to want to deport as many illegal immigrants as possible. Meanwhile, I'm looking at this country, and the voice just can't stop voicing itself every 5 minutes. So it's like my anti-American views are just, well, they're disappearing there because I think I'm putting up more hatred on the centre right in this country than I ever could on America at this point.
100% agree, Mitch. 100% agree. But yeah. And anything else, Mitch?
It's like you have Tom Holman, I think his name is, the border guy. Yeah, there's him. Then there's this neck of the woods. I mean, who have we got? I mean, the closest we had was Rupert Lowe, but well, that situation with reform.
Well, sadly, we're going to have to come on to that later on, and we will. But yeah,
and it's just, and like, I mean, Trump can be a bit of a blowhard. However, he is not so arrogant and narcissistic to just like think he can do everything by himself. Like he does see where his limitations are. No man's an island, and he's got guys like Stephen Miller and Tom Holman, and also his son Barron, who they've got their own respective fields of interest, and they're enacting their fair share of a MAGA agenda along the way best they can. Limitations of his constitution aside, because it's like over here, for example, in Britain, if you have a parliamentary majority, you can pretty much do anything. Compared to America, where you've got
if you have the will, Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree with everything you're saying there, mate. I just want to welcome Aaron Hook, who is, in many respects, our British politics expert, certainly historically. And Aaron, before we go any further with other stuff, what's your view on America joining the Commonwealth?
Well, my view of the Commonwealth is that outside of the Commonwealth realms, it's not much use. So America joining wouldn't make that much difference, to be honest. It's
How about if there was a old Commonwealth bit which was more important, you know, as in Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand?
that would probably be more effective, especially if you wanted to bring in some more protectionist measures. So you could have the Americans in as a special as having a particular special trading relationship, which would allow protectionism outside of that. So that would be a good thing, but just in the Commonwealth as a whole, it makes little or no difference, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with any of that. All right, we've been going 51 minutes. Let's move on to our second guest topic, which is Hitman. Hitman, did you have a special topic for this week?
Yes, it was actually one we talked about a little bit, which is doing Mark Carney becoming Prime Minister of Canada.
The former head of the Bank of England and the total globalist shitbag, in other words, is what you're talking about.
Yes, and yeah, well, you know, he's sort of his villain arc carries on. You know, Governor Bank of Canada, Governor Bank of England, now Prime Minister of Canada, and it should be really noted because AM mentioned this on his stream he did on, you know, euphemistic democracy in Europe, but he's the first ever Prime Minister of Canada to not hold a seat in the Canadian Parliament, and which I found really, really shocking because I thought that was a requirement, but turns out it's not a requirement. It's expected that you traditionally should, but it's not a legal requirement, so he's just gone and done it. So now, obviously, he wants to have this snap election, so remains to be seen whether he'll actually maybe run for a seat during the election.
Apparently, we're going to find out tomorrow, Hitman, if there's going to be an early election in Canada. One of our Canadian viewers told us earlier.
Well, hang on. I just thought if he's calling a snap election, that's it, having an election.
Well, like I said, one of our Canadian viewers said we're going to find out tomorrow if he can do this.
Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, even if they don't have a snap election, they're due to have one this autumn anyway. So it's just, yeah. And as I mentioned, he sort of come in and he appears to, because obviously a few months ago, you know, the Liberals were doing terribly in the polls. You know, they were like 25 points and the Conservatives were on like 45 to 50 points. So it was going to be a Tory landslide. Now they've got rid of Trudeau and Carney's come in, and now the polls are saying the Liberals are on like 49 points in some polls, with the Conservatives only on like 31 or something. So it's going to be a complete blowout for the Liberals if that is actually what happens at an election.
If the Canadians vote for the Liberals again, then I'm sorry, they deserve everything they get. I beg your pardon, but they do. I'm sure, I know, because I have friends who are Canadians who are based and right of centre. But if the Canadians vote for the Liberal Party and get conned again, then I don't know what to say, to be honest.
I will say with Canada, I follow some Canadians on social media. Some of them our way, some of them really normie-ish, and it's like, well, the problem is Canada is kind of like Scotland in the sense that so Scotland has a fear of being outshone by the English or by us, the English. So if we go really shit libby, the Scottish go twice as libby as us. Same goes for Canada in respect to America. Like the Americans were paused for years, and so the Canadians try to outpause pause in America. That's why Canada's so bad.
Much
Especially
truth.
in a
I think there's much truth to that. Before I move on to another guest, Duke Valentino, you're asking some interesting questions, okay? But I can't answer them unless I want to totally derail what we're talking about. So either send us a super chat via Entropy, which is pinned at the top of the chat, or ask them a bit later in the stream and we'll try and answer them there. Okay. Aaron, your thoughts on what we're talking about now, the Canadian election and Carney?
Well, I've got to say my knowledge of Canadian politics is very limited, so I can't add much. But one thing I will say is just that within the Westminster system, you don't have to necessarily be a member of Parliament, as has been pointed out about with Carney, to be a Prime Minister. As long as you have the confidence of the House of Commons, you can be Prime Minister. It is just convention that you need to be a member of the House of Commons. So back in the 1960s, Alec Douglas Hume was elected Tory leader in 1963. He claimed his peerage and then spent about a month with neither a month before he got a seat in the House of Commons, and he was Prime Minister. So it has happened before, and it's not that unusual. It is unusual, but it's not anything beyond the bounds of constitutionality, as it were.
But they are definitely dropping globalist Carney in there to replace the vile Trudeau. Basically, that's all they're doing.
Yeah, that's from.
And in fact, there's very little difference between Trudeau and Carney. Very, very little.
I mean, Carney is just a more sensible version of Trudeau. That's the point. That's the reason he's been put in there, because Trudeau had so badly mishandled the situation. And obviously, I think there's three reasons why there's been this complete about face, and it's now looking like the Liberals are going to win. So one is getting rid of Trudeau. Second, it is to an extent, yes, this whole Trump threatening to annex Canada and all these tariffs, etc., etc. Canadian inflexive nationalism. There is another element though, and it is just the fact that Carney, other than this referencing Canada's European heritage, but it's also just sensible policies. Like day one, he got rid of all the carbon taxes, which is the main thing the Conservatives were campaigning on. And so he's completely pulled out the rug under Pierre Poilievre's feet. So now they've got nothing. And, all the Tories have now got is this, we're so, you're Canadian no matter what your heritage is, whether you're Indian or black or whatever.
God.
And it's even funny because, as you know, Iron Duke, I was doing a stream on Iranian history earlier, but it's actually been Nowruz, which is the Iranian New Year, and Pierre Poilievre actually tweeted out saying, "I wish a happy Nowruz to all Canadians who celebrate it." And I'm thinking, how many Iranians are there in Canada? It's just like
it makes you want to vomit, mate. This sort of stuff when you see it. And you see it in Britain all the time. I mean, it just makes you want to vomit, or it makes me want to vomit anyway. Look, I just to say to any Canadians who watch this, I will have Endeavour on when we know when the Canadian election is coming about to ask him for a Canadian insider, right-wing Canadians insider view on this. But I follow Endeavour on X, on Twitter, and he has been completely warning against Carney, but also saying the Conservatives are not very good either. So,
Can I just prop up Canada for a minute? I just want to prop them up for their hockey, their Labatt Blue beer, which is phenomenal, and Bare Naked Ladies, great band. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, fair enough. No, look, there are good
great things about Canada.
There are good base Canadians. I have several Canadians in my Discord who are really good blokes. And like I say, you can generally tell a good base Canadian because you will support the old Canadian red ensign flag rather than the modern maple leaf thing. Like in the old days, no one called Canada Leafs. And their soldiers had a reputation for being very tough and good soldiers back in the day.
They're very
And
much
also-
like us, the Midwestern people here, like truly. Because I grew up in Michigan, so I knew a lot of Canadians, and they're very much, just grounded, good people. The problem is that the left has taken hold of the narrative, the media, and their politics now. So
Totally agree. Totally agree.
can I just say one thing? What do you guys think about Trump taking the Department of Education down? Isn't that great?
Excellent.
Because that's where this is. That's where it all leads. It starts there, and then they go into politics, and they go into teaching, and
I just got to ask what replaces it, because I mean, to be fair, it's a bit of a joke, because I mean, it's like that old Mark Twain quote goes, "God invented war so that Americans could learn geography." So, like, but I'm wondering what replaces the. Yeah, because it's a bit. To be fair, there's a lot of truth to the stereotype of the American education system. Well, because for example, most Americans couldn't name half their own states, for argument's sake. So I wonder how Trump's going to improve that sort of things.
guys, your view of us Americans, I swear.
Hang on.
I got talking to them. Oh, sorry.
It's not all of us. All right, calm down. Look, we're getting arguments in the chat about Canada and the Midwest and all the rest of it. I'm going to say this: what I know about Canadians is that the prairie Canadians are very similar to Midwestern Americans. The prairie Canadians, and Canadians will know what I mean when I'm talking about the prairie states. And Lothar Sheffield is not being very accurate. During World War I, French Canadians didn't enlist in the same numbers of those of English descent. No, they didn't. On the other hand, quite a lot of French Canadians fought in World War I and also in World War II. I used to have a good mate who was actually married to a Kiwi girl, a New Zealand girl, who was a French Canadian whose dad went across on D-Day. So, don't generalize Lothar Sheffield.
I totally disagree that Canadians are not similar to Midwestern Americans, because they really are. But
the prairie state ones are, yes.
Right. I'm not talking about right.
I'm not talking about the people around Toronto or in the because Canada's a bit like America in the
big cities.
East Coast and the West Coast are pretty bloody left wing, but the center part not so much.
Right.
Yeah, I would say. Oh, sorry.
So no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a reason why Alberta is the most right-wing state in Canada. In some like Alberta, in terms of because you have Ottawa and Toronto, which are, I mean, I think Toronto at this point is like majority foreign national. It's not even like the majority of people living in Toronto these days are foreign nationals. Vancouver is pretty much just a little Chinatown at this point in terms of property being bought there. You get areas like, say, Newfoundland. The problem with Newfoundland is they always bloody vote Liberal because the Liberals give them more federal money in grants. So you get some of the rural areas, which, the thing about Newfoundland is basically like you imagine like rural Britain or rural Ireland, just a little outpost of that. But as Rebecca, Canada's pretty. I don't know how you describe it other than just been really weird. Because America has that rugged individualism. They like. I mean, this is one thing. You look at our politics. It's like, all our political actors all ever know in this country is to ban or to tax something, whereas in America, they'll just say, well, why don't those Americans are more likely to use initiative? That's one thing that I'm having to admit to my displeasure. God, and differences between Brits and Americans these days in terms of our politics.
Okay. Obsidian was actually agreeing. He was not saying that they are not.
I saw that.
Okay. I was very confused with that statement. So good on you. All right.
Yeah, the prairie state Canadians are very similar to Midwestern Americans in that regard.
Canadians are really awesome people. All of them that I've met, they're very down to earth and just cool people. So
yeah, no, I've had and got Canadian friends who are excellent guys. And like I say, their military, I'm not so sure about these days, but in the old days, their military had a reputation as very tough soldiers indeed.
Well,
And
was
one of
it?
the coolest dogs ever comes from Canada, the Newfoundland. Awesome dog. Just,
Oh yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
and of
want to
course
have
the
one
Labrador
someday.
and the Labrador too.
Right,
So,
that's right, the Labrador.
yeah.
Yeah, wasn't there like a situation where in Afghanistan, like the Canadian Minister of Defence, he was an ethnic, I think he was a Sikh fella. He was having like the Canadian Armed Forces evacuate some of his relatives or something before they were evacuating some of their own guys, like from the Canadian Army or something. I
But
think
on
like
the
a scam.
but on the other hand, it's worth mentioning that obviously America lost the most men killed and wounded in Afghanistan. After that, it was Britain, and the third was Canada. It's worth mentioning that.
Yeah, so it's quite something with Canada. I mean, everyone knows. I mean, because of Trudeau, everyone sees Canada as a basket case. However, I mean, I know Duke's watched that Passchendaele film, which I mean, I like the battle scenes, but I don't like the romance, the cringe story. But anyway, yeah. But you get,
Yeah,
um,
romances in war films are always cringe, but I mean, there
yeah, and well,
You
yeah. The whole
always
point is that,
fast forward them, and I have to miss those parts, by the way.
you go.
So
yeah.
frustrating.
Well, I think the only other thing was and I like someone was having a bit. I think Aaron like I just wanted to get out of the way. So the thing about Americans, and I imagine I don't know where Aubrey's ancestry comes from originally, but I know so with America, like their accents, some people reckon that the Southern accents in America are closer to, let's say, British accents from, let's say, 400 years ago than, of course, British accents now. But the thing is, especially with Southerners like Virginia and Georgia and southern states like that, is their accents come from the southwest. So I always try to Tory probably has a right spider's web of connected family members. Um, if we were to go off, like, let's say, the southwestern English diaspora in America, for argument's
Yeah,
sake.
yeah, probably.
Mitch, didn't you send me that video a while back of that little like island off of the East Coast that had like the craziest accent? Wasn't that you?
Yeah, I think it was like islands off the coast of Virginia or something where their
Yeah,
accents are pretty much unchanged. From like, kind of
it
like
was
accents of
interesting.
AI flies all his way in Southwest, pretty much unchanged from like 400 years
Yeah,
ago.
it does. They do. It does sound. It's strange because a lot of people say, "Oh, it sounds very like Somerset," and I can listen hear it, but it does. I mean, it is quite to say that it's completely like West Country is not entirely true. I mean, there is like there is that sort of American twang to it where there is that sort of disconnect, but because naturally there would be, right, there would be that accent difference, but yeah, you do find places like Georgia and the Carolinas in the South, and there's a lot of people around where I live where if they have cousins who live in America, they either live in Georgia or Alabama in the Carolinas. So yeah, there does seem to be quite a lot. I have family that live in the American side. They come from Maryland. So that's just a bit, north, but still.
I've got to agree with Sonny Jim in the chat that Albion Seed is an excellent book. It looks at the early English and British settlers to America. It's a long book, but it's well worth reading, and you can find audio versions on YouTube. So yeah, and yeah, Aaron, you should get one of those. It is a most interesting book.
The only thing I've got to say about it is I'm the cheapest one. I mean, to be fair, yeah, let's say for argument's sake, you was getting off Amazon. Apparently, the cheapest one is hardcover, 40 quid. whereas paperback's like 54 quid. So, big deal. But yeah, I did plan on. I just see. I got.
Sonny Jim is pointing out you can find free PDFs, which you can, but also there are audio versions of Albion Seed on YouTube. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to listen to it or read it.
Okay.
Aaron, anything to say about Canada and Canadians and the election and the vile globalist Carney?
Not much, but that's Carney's not a saviour. Other than that,
He's certainly not a Canadian nationalist. I mean, he's laughing as one, but he isn't at all. He's a globalist. He does not give a shit about Canadians, really. AI, anything to add to that?
Well, no, I mean he's sort of like he's a Starmer type figure, right? You know, he's sort of a managerial Starmer type figure. I mean this is where I come back to the double-edged sword here. In many ways, the more that Trump, pushes I guess the problem, and this is the dilemma for the Canadians out there, the more that Trump pushes the sort of 2.0 Monroe Doctrine, the more that Carney type figures can capitalize and LARP as Canadian patriots and who harken back to quote unquote their British heritages and all that sort of stuff. So this is the conundrum that they will face when it comes to this. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, I mean, obviously Carney isn't the answer. So
totally agree. Yeah, he's a LARPer as a Canadian nationalist. He's just pretending to try and win the election. I just hope that the good Canadians, who I'm sure are the majority still, don't fall for it.
Well, the Conservatives aren't exactly a great choice either, so...
No, exactly, they're not. And I know because I had Endeavour on here about a month or so ago, Hitman, as you probably know, and he was not suggesting people will support the Conservatives. But like I said, when we know when the Canadian election is going to be, I will get Endeavour on again. And if there are other Canadians, and I know I've got 2 or 3 in the Discord, if they want to come on and speak about this, then they'll be most welcome. So, yeah.
Interesting you mentioned Endeavour because I follow him on Telegram, and I have to say he really hates the what he calls the Maple Magatards, which are the Canadians who are like pro-annexation into America, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, all of them are bad. I mean, Canada's got its own history, and indeed, a fair number of Canadians can trace their ancestry back to being originally people in the 13 colonies who were forced to move because of the violence of the American revolutionaries. So yeah, there is absolutely a difference. And I mean, even in the 1860s, there were Irish Fenians who were trying to invade Canada from America. So yeah, there
surprise, surprise.
Yeah, there is this. Obviously there were Irishmen who moved to America, and then after the Civil War, they thought, "All right, we're going to invade Canada now." And of course, they came completely unstuck the couple of times they tried it, but because the loyalist Canadians defeated them very easily. But Canada does have a separate history from the US. It's not the same place. When Sitting Bull wiped out Custer's guys, he fled to Canada, and the Canadians sent a few Mounties over there and said to Sitting Bull, "Well, look, will you keep the Queen's peace?" And Sitting Bull said yes, and that was all right, So I'm not going on an anti-Canadian view here at all. I just think that the lefty Canadians who are only becoming Canadian in air quotes, nationalists because of Trump, they're a con job too.
One thing I have noticed, especially the liberal Canadian, like more like liberal normie Canadians, is that they've also discovered, of course, the infamous raid on Washington, which resulted in burning down the White House and several other buildings. And in particular, it's sort of become this, this was Canada that did that. And while, there was a contingent, because I think it was 4,500 troops, there was a contingent of militia from Canada. I mean, most of the regiments were either like the, it was, what was it? It was the East Sussex Lightfoot, and there was it was all English, and I think one Scottish regiment.
There were loads of British troops involved in the capture of Washington. Yes, there were.
Yeah, and the officers were. I mean, one was from the Anglo-Irish stock that Wellesley came from, and the other one was it was from sort of a London. That was General Ross.
There were also Royal Marines and loads of Royal Navy sailors, and yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, while I understand why Canadians, because obviously a lot of some of those soldiers did stay in Canada, and because I've got a book here on the 1812 war where a lot of British soldiers who fought in the 1812 but stayed in Canada, and so there's people that Canada, they say they can trace their lineage back to that, and that's cool, and I get why they like to pick on that, but even that's like. Yeah, that's a British military operation. That's not.
But on the other hand, AI, there were 3 American attempted invasions of Canada during the War of 1812, and again, some British troops were involved in those. But there were also a lot of Canadian militia, and there were even French Canadian militia involved in those. So
I was waiting for you guys to bring that up.
So
that always comes up in topic.
The native warland leader Tecumseh, wasn't it?
Yeah, but let's not totally derail what we're talking about, because we're already on an hour and 17 minutes, and again, the War of 1812 is a stream I will happily do on our history streams on Wednesdays. So. Yeah, if you guys want to do that, suggest it. Say you'll come on as a guest, and I'll say, yep, let's do it. But maybe let's not derail our stream any further on that one this evening. So let me think. I've asked Mitch, Hitman. Aaron, did you have a first subject for this evening?
Just to discuss the sort of shutdown of Heathrow Airport. Just that.
Most interesting, Aaron. Yeah, most interesting. Go for it, mate.
Yeah, for those who don't know, a fire took out a substation near to Heathrow Airport, and it's effectively knocked Heathrow Airport out for the next couple of days. I think at least a week, as well as a huge number, about 16,000 homes and businesses around the same area. And there's questions about who did it, and nobody actually at the moment knows. Some people have suggested that it might have been some kind of terrorist attack. I saw at one point some people going around suggested it might have been people just having a look at the substation and then messing it up. But at the moment, we don't actually know who did it. But it just shows you the sort of state that the country's infrastructure's in. That this one substation can be taken out, possibly by just an accidental fire. It puts out the most important airport in the country out of action for at least a week. It's just unbelievable.
It's kind of ridiculous how an airport on this scale is so heavily reliant on the substation, not even in the grounds. I mean, if it was within the grounds of the airport, like it was their own like generator or something, that I guess that makes sense. But the fact that this happened outside, it is rather odd, and I think it was the airport released a statement, or a statement was released saying that the reason why there is no backup generators is because of the net zero targets, and they're relying on like biomass energy or some biogenerated
Dear
energy
God.
or something like that. Which is why this has all happened in such a clown like fashion. And the funny thing is, you've got the Telegraph has been put out the story saying, is this like it's all been hinting at, or was this like This is like a Russian attempt of attacking our infrastructure. So many different people have said that you had the
utter bullshit. But
uh,
I mean, look,
you
for
yeah.
anyone who doesn't know, Heathrow is the main airport for London. I mean, London has 3 airports, but Heathrow is the biggest one, and it's probably one of the 5 busiest airports in the world. So, yeah.
I think it's second after the Atlanta airport.
Could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely one
I
of
might
the
be wrong on that.
largest and busiest airports in the world. And the idea that they don't have generators as backups because of net zero is just fucking laughable, to be honest. But yeah.
I was going to say that they had diesel ones, but they got rid of said diesel ones because, of course, diesel doesn't fit in with the net zero stuff, does it? So they scrapped it for the sake of this quote-unquote award-winning biomass fueled generator that takes
And it,
ages to
and
fire
it
up.
didn't work. It didn't work. What a surprise. Award winning. Oh, God. So net zero is so crazy. I mean, just honestly, it's an insane idea. But
Yeah, no, the main thing I hate about net zero is the fact that it's making me agree with your choice. That's the thing I'm hating about it.
yeah, it's just craziness. It really is. But the net zero is crazy. It make yourself poor is what net zero is basically. But yeah, anybody else on this? Mitch, AI or reality? Anybody?
I mean, I've not really noticed this story until today, so I've not really got anything to add, really.
I kind of wish it was the start of the English Civil War, but not really, because we don't support violence.
There's been so many theories here that it's like Islamists, Extinction Rebellion. I'm going to complete the whole hog of like conspiracy theories and just go out to say I think Mossad did it.
Well,
entirely possible.
Yes, entirely possible, considering the actions of extremist Zionists against British military and other targets. So it's not entirely impossible. I mean,
by the way, just to let everyone know, I'm not suicidal or anything. So if anything happens, it's.
That's so funny. It's not, but it is.
Zionist terrorists wanted to plant a bomb in Whitehall.
I'm pretty sure AI has not been to Epstein Island, but anyway.
No, unfortunately, I do have a work pager, so maybe I should leave that to the side for a bit.
Yeah, you want to be careful.
Do you in fact have information that could lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton?
It's funny too.
Oh, just to tell YouTube, this channel is entirely against all violence. But anyway, we are.
Just to clarify, people, of course, I don't think Mossad did it because officially Mossad doesn't exist. So there you go. Doesn't exist.
Of course it doesn't. And they didn't.
As well.
Yeah, and they didn't blow the faces off women and children with their pages. It's a nonsense. Never happened.
And they never tried to poison London's water supply.
Of course not.
Oh, yeah.
They'd never do such things. This is nonsense, guys. Come on, stop it.
We should take this conversation to Odyssey.
next you guys will be telling me that the Israeli Air Force and Navy attacked the USS Liberty. Of course they didn't. And they never hung. They never hung captured British sergeants.
Yeah, that
Of
is
course they
terrible.
didn't.
And Irish.
And they never did. Yeah, they never
Irish.
hung any captured British sergeants. They never did that. It's complete fantasy. They would never do such things.
You know
Yeah.
what? I do love Ben Shapiro when he was confronted by
Oh!
some student on that particular issue, and his response was, "Well, it happened so long ago. Who cares? It happened so long ago. Who cares?"
Yeah.
I thought you were going to mention him in a good way. I shouldn't have even thought that, but I can't believe you said his name on this show.
Apparently, they're going bankrupt, guys. The thing is that apparently Shapiro's alternative, in air quotes, news channel is
The Daily
going
Wire?
bankrupt. Yeah, they're going bankrupt.
What?
Yeah, no,
I'm a
They are.
subscriber, by the way.
No, I've heard that, and I've heard it's because a lot of people are just like cancelling their subscription, basically.
Yep.
Well, I'm a subscriber.
Oh God!
Don't kick me out of the Discord group for that.
Good,
please.
good goyim, good goyim. You
what's
are.
what's the expression?
You're
I'm
a
not mad,
good
just
goyim,
disappointed.
Aubrey.
You know what? I love Matt Walsh. Much more than Shapiro. So say what you will, but you guys would actually like Matt Walsh if you listen to him. He
Do you
does
think
not
we
say-
haven't? Or reality? Do you think
Yes.
we haven't heard of him?
I don't think you listen to him regularly. I know you don't, because we talk about it. I made you listen one time with me, and you laughed quite a bit.
Okay.
By the way.
Well, I refer my answers and all future answers to Bishop Cyril of Alexandria. Next question.
I'm just gonna say though, he diverges quite a bit from Shapiro when it comes to all the Israel stuff. So, just saying.
What do you, Aubrey Ali? What do you think about Candace Owens being sacked from Daily
It's
Wire?
bullshit. It's bullshit.
Because she said Christ is she said Christ is King.
No, that's bullshit. She took her. I liked Candace Owens until this whole thing happened. Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh is a Catholic. He talks about his faith all the time. Ben Shapiro talks about the Christian faith all the time too, and his friends that are Christians. And he has ministers and priests come on there. She's full of shit. She didn't. Yeah, she came on there with an attitude and did a diva thing, got fired, and she was really upset because she lost a big contract. So. Sorry, I'm
not gonna agree with you on this, Aubrey.
Well, you don't listen to everything on the Daily Wire. You don't read. I'm a subscriber. I read all the articles.
Okay,
it's not true.
Now,
I'm pretty sure, Aubrey Ali. Hang on, AI. Aubrey Ali, I'm pretty sure that before you came on this stream, you said to me you were not going to do this.
I didn't bring it up. AI did. You can kick him out of the Discord group.
No,
not me.
It's not my fault.
It's your fault, AI.
Totally. It's not my fault. It's them. They make me do it.
It's AI's fault. He's coming down for
this. The thing is, Aubrey Allen, I agree with AI on this. He's right and you're not. But,
Well, yeah, but you just don't know what you're talking about because you don't. Anyway. Whatever.
Guys, can't you see what they're doing?
Normie.
They're dividing us already.
I'm the normie. Let's go on.
I do agree. I do agree with Obsidian Fane, who I think is a Canadian, saying Candace Owens can go down some crazy far out rabbit holes. Yes, that's true. I'm no big fan of Candace Owens, but as far as I can work out, she really got the sack from the Daily Wire for saying Christ is King.
But
as far as I can work out.
How could that be the case when Matt Walsh talks about his faith all the time?
I'm not a big Matt Walsh fan, as you know.
No, but he's part of the Daily Wire group. That's why I'm bringing that up. I'm not randomly saying that.
Yeah, but he doesn't say Christ is King, does he?
Yes, he does. He talks. Oh my god. Anyway, whatever. She lied. It's bullshit.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll move on from this.
Sorry, I keep swearing. I shouldn't keep swearing. Sorry.
Yeah, don't please
Especially
don't
because my
swear.
dad is listening. So sorry, Dad.
It's very unladylike to swear.
I know, I
But
know.
yeah, women, women are just women. You can't do anything much about them, really. So
God.
where did we get to? Aaron, you were talking about this, weren't you?
Yeah. I would say my pet theory is that it's a couple of autists who are sort of fascinated by substations who've gone in there and they somehow messed it up. I'm convinced it's going to be the reason it's happened is because of something as stupid as that. It won't be any grand conspiracy or anything like that. It'll just be some couple of idiots who have messed about with something or other and caused it.
Reasonable.
So I mean,
yeah.
I do think there's a good chance it could be like little Sammy and little Timmy, snuck in there, messed around, and they're probably back home, absolutely scared witless of what's happened, and it's going to be like one of those like friendship stories where you hold on to it and you don't tell anybody like for years, sort of thing, that you caused all this problem. So.
Where I used to live when I was about 10 years old, there was a small, it wasn't even a substation, it was a tiny substation. And it had a metal fence around it, but the gate was never locked. So kids could always go in and out. And I was always, and looking back, I'm surprised something like this didn't happen there, given how common it was for kids to go in there as a bit.
I say, I mean, you and I say, you're probably old enough to remember the old like public information things, and there was that one where a frisbee got stuck on those high wires. Remember the high wires? And it was like what a boy. It was a boy and a girl, and he went to climb it, and he ends up getting like electrocuted, and then it's like don't go near these wires and everything, and maybe to have something like those back, like this public information, like also like don't skip on the pavement next to the road because you might fall into the road or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Or look right, look left, look right again. Or sorry, it was left, right, left again before you cross the road. Yeah. That kind of common sense stuff that you would want to teach
Or having
children.
to put ads in Australia on for people not to lay down in the middle of the roads so they don't get hit by trucks.
Oh yeah, but that's
real.
That's only for the Aboriginals.
I know, but when you told me about that, I just about lost my mind. I could not believe that actually has to.
Honestly, I don't know what it's like now, but in 2000 in Australia, in the Northern Territory, they used to have adverts on the TV where this Aboriginal police dude would say, "Don't fall asleep on the road." And they'd show you all these massive road trains going along.
And not driving. He meant literally the people go and lay down in the street and fall asleep.
Yeah, on the road in the countryside, because the road gets warm during the day because it's tropical up there. And so some Aboriginal dude or woman will lay down on the road and then be really surprised when a 3-trailer road train comes along and squashes them flat because it didn't see them basically at night.
Yeah, that sounds like all
on train tracks. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, so they really did in 2000, 2002. They used to have adverts on Northern Territory TV in Australia where an Aboriginal guy was telling other Aboriginal guys, "Don't fall asleep on the road." True story.
Lady of Shalott was saying that she seconded that too, that she had seen those. So funny.
Yeah, it was like when I first saw them when I moved here from South Africa, I was just amazed. You have to tell people not to fall asleep on the road. Okay.
And they were trying to give them a majority vote to run your country.
Well, they were trying to give an Aboriginal voice to Parliament, which would have given them vastly more influence on Parliament than everybody else. And luckily, Australians rejected that in a referendum, I'm happy to say. But yeah, it's a bit like the rates of domestic violence in Aboriginal communities are 10 or 20 times higher than they are in the rest of Australia, but you're never allowed to say that.
They are really high because, you know, crime is my interest area. They are very,
Yeah,
very high
careful.
too in Canada.
Aubriale, be
Yes.
careful what you say. We're on YouTube, okay?
Oh, I am. I'm gonna be. But no, I was just gonna say
There's
Canada.
no free speech on YouTube.
No, I know. In the indigenous people, in Canada, it's very, very high as well there.
Yeah, it is. But you know, that's obviously white colonialism's fault. It's not because they're
It really
assholes
is.
or
It's a
anything
minority.
like that.
We should be calling the Aborigines the speed bump communities, really.
Right. Isn't that crazy? My God. You're very funny today, I gotta say. You're making all kinds of jokes.
Yeah, I'm just chronically depressed. So anyway, the point is, didn't they like sniff like petrol as well? Wasn't that a thing?
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Yep. Don't sniff petrol. Keep it for your car.
I do love the smell of gas, though. It is awesome.
Me too. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I don't like sit there and huff it, but sorry, Dad. My dad's listening. God, I'm not well.
I mean, are they the only like ethnic group to genocide themselves?
Hang on, guys. Let's be careful here. We're on YouTube, okay, guys? I've got. We don't support violence, and we think all black and brown people are absolutely wonderful. Stop it.
We love everyone.
Stop it.
Even if if they inadvertently kill themselves.
Yes.
We love the pumpkin quashies, don't we?
Suicide is a human right, guys. Come on, stop it.
Oh God.
It's a human right to commit suicide. Indeed, in Canada and Britain, we're going to make suicide something you can go and ask for on the health service. So there you go. Especially if you're white, by the way. But yeah, I do look, all true. But anyway, don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep on the road, guys. It's not a good plan. But yeah. Who haven't I asked for a first topic? AI, did I ask you for a first topic? I don't think I did.
No, I was going to say, there's this, I thought I'd mention it now. I'll keep it short because it's not really much, but it's the latest craze to capture the minds and the hearts of the liberal morons in this country, and that is a TV show, a fictional TV show around a fictional character committing a fictional crime, called Adolescent, where it's this 13-year-old white English boy who murders a girl, I think of similar age, and the purpose of the story is, I've seen any clips of it, and I watched a bit of the first episode of it because I thought, well, I want to know what I'm talking about before I come on here tonight and talk about it, because it is like the liberals are salivating their mouth over this because they're enjoying this. This is like I mean, this is like pornographic content for them to validate their own shit liberty. Anyway, the point is that we know that in the story he committed the crime, but it's getting to the reason why he killed this girl, and it turns out it was basically like an incel, black pillar, doom scrolly type 13-year-old. It sort of hints that he was into Andrew Tate, and then it just becomes a whole story about
that explains it. Yeah, that explains it. And as far as I understand AI, this is really based on the actual Rudy Cabana murder of the 3 English toddler girls, isn't it?
It's not.
Based on, no,
it's a completely different murder.
It's a different, it's a different crime involving a black teenager. I mean, the thing though is, this is where it gets really confusing. This is where, because the the director of it looks like a fucking goblin, and I don't mean it in the sort of edgy sense of he just looks like a fucking gnome and the goblin and everything else. But he stated he stated that that this was a story about knife crime. He then pivoted to, because then people were saying, hold on a sec, like knife crime, especially against women in this country, is perpetuated by the paper Brits in London and places like that. So that's that's like, it's a bit odd that you represent it as like a white child. And then he said, oh no, this is actually about like misogyny and incel culture. And
But
now he's sort of,
this is what the left always claims. When
yeah.
I mean, they even claim it about the child rape and torture gangs, the so-called grooming gangs, which are almost all Islamic and Pakistani. They try and claim it about those. They say the left will claim this is a misogyny problem, whereas it's not. It's an Islam problem. But I mean,
I think we need stricter laws on purchasing knives. If we're
well,
going to
in
go that route.
Britain, you basically can't buy a knife anymore.
Are you serious?
It's really hard.
They literally. I was making a joke because of guns here. Like,
no.
I didn't know that was actually a thing over there.
Online, you can't buy a knife unless you can prove exactly who you are.
There's
so
a
you could
shop
get turned away from having a knife.
Yeah,
There's a shop
but you
called
can buy a
Lakeland.
screwdriver. You can buy a screwdriver, which of course you
there
can't
is-
stab someone with a screwdriver. I mean, you know,
So,
obviously.
there
not.
is a shop called There's a shop called Lakeland Plastics where I've purchased knives, like, I mean, years and years ago. I don't know if it's still going in where the store is still open there, but you used to be able to walk into shops and purchase knives. I don't know if you can now.
It's
I
of a
don't even know
certain
if
size, right? Size blade. I'm assuming. Right?
we purchased at Lakeland a proper like knife set, like for carving. So it was,
Okay.
I mean, the largest knife I've
becoming
got here.
AI. That is becoming more and more difficult, especially online in Britain.
I
Yeah.
can't
Because
believe this.
that's going to. It's nothing to do with importing barbarians from the third world. It's the fact you can buy a knife. You know.
I mean, they bring their machetes along.
But
so.
I mean, so getting back to the story, the point, what's made this like, okay, yeah, this is like some left-wing fantasy, but what's made this even more just insane is that now you've got MPs who have said they want this to be shown in Parliament, and they want to show this, and now and Starmer says he wants this to be shown in every schools up and down the country, and you know, I sort of equate it on Twitter with like the reaction, the sort of because I mean the public reaction from this has been the people that I've seen reacting to this has been absolutely just ridiculous levels of stupidity, and I've equated it with the reaction to Diana's death, where you had these masses of people crying and sobbing and just behaving in just these
All
like this
about a whore. All about
yeah
a whore. Diana was a whore. I'm sorry, she
yeah
just was.
yeah it just and people just didn't know her, and there was just this really un-British, I think that's the best way to describe it, this un-British outcry. And what we're seeing today from this is that same sort of mentality being played out again over a fictional crime, a fictional story, and a fictional character. And I will say that the character that this 13-year-old who is like uber incel warrior, hates women, and everything else, quite frankly, just does not exist. And I can guarantee the crime that is loosely based off the black one we don't even really know what his motives were. There's no indication that he was an incel, the one that the Hitman referenced earlier, the real crime. There's no indication
But
that he
hang
was
on,
an incel.
AI. We should be grateful though, because 95% of race swaps are taking a white hero and swapping that white hero for a black person. So at least on this occasion, they've swapped a black person for a white person. So there's some fairness there, of course. I'm taking the piss, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean that's the only time you're going to get it with like Netflix and shit. And
Yeah.
I mean I will say though, you do have the casting of like the social worker and the behavioral police officer specialist and they're like these like just completely empty, gormless female physiology of like modern liberal Britain. So the casting, I would say, is spot on. Like just the absolute contemptible smugness of like these middle class women is spot on. I will give them that. But on the whole, it is just it's a liberal's wet dream. It is a British liberal's wet dream, and yeah, I mean it's just complete bollocks. There's nothing else I can really say about it.
They're doing that in all of this. I have read and listened to audiobooks constantly, and okay, I'm gonna admit I listen to romance audiobooks sometimes, and you guys, all of them now, I can't even listen to any of them because they all end up with this woman who saved. She's like sassy, like okay, I'm a little feisty, but she's like these girls are just obnoxious, and of course they end up saving the man in the end. Which, by the way, the new Snow White. This was one of the things I wanted to mention. Have you guys heard about this? They totally changed
Yes, we've
the
heard of
writing
that.
of it, and they made it so that she saves him, and they're like, yeah, and I guess, oh, who's the guy that's like,
She's a Latino, by
right,
the way.
right,
The one,
right, and but who's the guy that is like the short guy that's or little person or whatever uh
dwarf.
yeah, anyway, Richard, it's not, I can't, I think his name's Richard.
Dinklage or Dinklewood
That's
or
right,
whatever.
that's right. So
Peter
he
Dinklage.
Dinklage, that's right.
threw a fit about these being dwarves. So I guess they took those out and they did some kind of CGI like critters or something instead of I don't know. I don't care to see the movie, but it's insane. It's insane. It's insane.
So,
And like
so,
The
so
Aliens
she,
was one of my
I
favorites
won't
when
be
I was a kid.
watching.
They remade it.
I won't be watching that film. But on the other hand, I've never watched the original either because I'm a bloke. But
Well, I mean,
What? Not even as a child, because it's quite an old film.
no, not even as a child because it's a girls' film.
So the only thing because I'm not sure if you're going to ask me if I had a topic, and I do have one really quick one.
I watched 101 Dalmatians, and of course I'm going to ask you for a topic or reality.
Well,
But
okay.
no, I watched 101 Dalmatians as a child, but I didn't watch Snow White because Snow White's a girls' film, you know.
Yeah,
And
you
I
didn't
was
have
a
any
boy,
sisters.
surprisingly
Yeah.
enough.
Makes sense.
And my mother left when I was like, I don't know, 4.5 or something. So, my mum wasn't going to get me to watch it either. And my dad certainly wasn't going to watch Snow White. And I'm talking about the original version, okay? But the original version was a perfectly fine film for little girls. But
Yeah.
I was a little boy, so I've never seen it.
Well, they're having a fit saying that, like, Snow White and Cinderella and Rapunzel and Sleeping Beauty were all saved by men. But yeah, that's what we want, really. That's what women actually really do want. They want to be, have this
Look
like
at women's
dreamy
fiction.
prince come and save them, and
Look,
carry them off.
look at women's fiction. In the old days, you had all
Right.
those
The
bodice
bodice
rippers.
rippers.
Yeah,
I know.
your grandma and your
Oh my
ma
gosh, I read a
read.
couple of what my
Yeah,
grandmas were reading, and wow, holy cow.
but
But
yeah,
yeah, the guys always save the day, and now, but it goes with my theory that feminists are all ugly women that, haven't
yeah,
had
I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that's
haven't had
true. It's
great luck
certainly what I've seen.
with
But
men.
yeah, anybody else have stuff on this?
Well, just to add comment about romantic fiction, it's important to remember that in this country, at least, there was a strong ban on stuff like that. Because remember, famously, Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence.
Yeah.
The English version of that wasn't published in this country until 40 years after its original publication, because it was France. Because it was 1924, and it wasn't published, I think, until 1964 here, even though the author's British, because it's seen as being so steamy and against our our sentiments of romance and love, that there was a strong campaign against it, and it wasn't until the 60s that finally fell.
I mean, I will say there are some books that should be burnt. There are some that I mean, yeah. That's all I'd say on that. But I mean, yeah.
What would you
romantic...
burn, out of curiosity? What kind of books?
No, hang on. Let's not go there on YouTube, please.
Okay. On
Let's
YouTube, okay.
not go there on YouTube, please.
Okay.
Curious.
But
look, I would just say this: when I'm talking about
sorry, carry on.
I'm talking about when I'm talking about bodice rippers. I'm talking about books by people like Barbara Cartland, who people can look up on Google if they want, who was an English lady, or an English woman anyway, who wrote about women being captured by pirates or Highlanders, or you name it, that sort of stuff.
Perfect. That's what women
you can tell what I'm talking about. I am not talking about the stuff that Ip Man was talking about in terms of Lady Chatterley's Lover. I'm talking about mainstream bodice ripper.
You guys, here's the weird thing,
fiction.
Though. So there are those books, like the old books, right, that our grandmas read. Then now, so there are the books where these women are like kicking ass and they're the heroes, and the guys are kind of like a little bit more feminized because of this, right? Then the other trend is these books where the women wake up and they're in like a cell and they're sold into sex slavery, and then they're like trained, and then they fall in love with the guy and the guy falls in love with her.
And
it's violent.
Also
how are
Aubrey
feminists so
Alley,
good at this?
Aubrey Alley, and also books that are approved by feminists, like what was it called? Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey, and all that. Yeah, that was a book entirely made a bestseller by women, not by men.
And it was horrible, you guys. I read all of them, and they were terrible. And she talks about her inner goddess all the time, and she's, oh my god, it's horrible.
But on the other hand, she also gets tied up and whipped all the time, and he's a billionaire, of course, because
and a terrible actor.
All women are going to meet a billionaire. But yeah, whatever. It's just nonsense.
I will say that the worst book, the most depraved novel, the most depraved thing I've ever read is the 100 Days of Sodom by Marquis de Sade.
Agreed.
That is just. I mean, I can't even describe it on here, but it is. It's just. I mean,
that's
Mitch
not even erotic. It's just gross. Like
we seem to have lost. We seem to have lost Mitch. I hope he's going to come back.
I think
or
Mick's
maybe
just
he's
left
too disgusted
Yeah.
by the subject we're talking about.
I mean, I tell you what, I changed my views on book burning probably when I was like 16 when I read the 100 Days of Sodom.
Oh my God, AI! You read it at that young age? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I read that book when I was about that old, and yeah, it is utterly, it's appalling.
I mean, I've
It-
never
it
read
has-
it, but I know AA's talked about the Pierre Pasolini adaptation, and from what he said, he said he was like he was sick during watching it. So I'm like, Jesus.
That film is almost unwatchable. It's almost unwatchable.
Have you actually seen it then? The film?
Oh yeah, I've seen it, and it's almost unwatchable. It is utterly disgusting.
But it's interesting because it's just communist subversion, because Pasolini was a communist, and it's set in the Salo Republic during the end of the war, and it's just saying, oh yeah, the fascists are like sexual degenerates, and it's like, well, could talk about complete inversion of reality.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, the thing is, as much as the Italians, right? It's so not even the Italians would deprave. It's French. It's French at the end of the day. French Revolution.
Listen, I don't think the Italians are any more depraved than anybody else, but it's not even French. It's lefty. It's lefty basically.
And it's sadism, hence the Marquis de Sade. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the funny thing is, you see, the Marquis de Sade was made one of these revolutionary judges during the French Revolution. And the really telling thing is that the Marquis de Sade was actually one of the kinder ones who didn't execute so many aristos. That's the really telling thing about it.
Mm.
Well, and he wrote that when he was imprisoned, right? And so, I mean, he wrote it as shock value.
I have no idea why he wrote it, but
that's what
it's a disgusting. Listen, I'm not a prude, but it's a disgusting book.
Yeah, it is.
Really is.
I didn't Napoleon say it was the most like vile book he's ever
Yeah,
read.
Napoleon kept him in jail, and like I am no fan of Napoleon, let me tell you. But anyway,
I mean, Napoleon wrote rape fantasies about like raping French women.
What?
When he was a teenager? Yeah, there was
Oh,
yeah,
God.
And you're surprised about this?
There's a great biography that I've actually got it's on the life of Napoleon. When he was like a teenager, it was letters where he went through like this bizarre phase where he was writing, because he wanted to do like sort of writing, not like novels, and he had like this, when he went through like this anti-French phase, he just like would write long-winded tales about like destroying the French spirit, killing French people, and raping their women. And he was really obsessed with the raping of French women. It was very bizarre. He's a very bizarre character.
I knew he was a psychopath, but Jesus Christ.
Let's remind people that Napoleon was a Corsican, and the Corsicans are more Italian than they are French. And all his life, Napoleon had a Corsican, i.e., fairly Italian French accent. So
yeah.
Many women have rape fantasies, by the way. That's very one of the most common.
But hang on.
But I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Again, we are on YouTube. YouTube is not. It's not a free. You are telling the truth.
I learned it in human sexuality.
And I know you're telling the truth, but the point is we're on YouTube, and YouTube is not a free speech platform, and I don't want to lose my channel.
I don't promote rape at all.
Thank you.
Perhaps you should stop saying the R words.
None of us do. You're not even allowed to say RAPE on YouTube.
Yeah. And Dad, I hope you're not listening to this part. Sorry.
You're not even really allowed to say REPE on YouTube. You're not. So please, I don't want to lose my.
I didn't say the word first, actually. Hitman did. right?
Oh,
I don't care, all right?
I'm
Stop
throwing
it.
you guys under the bus because it's always me that gets in trouble.
It's YouTube. It's not a free speech platform, guys. Please stop it, all right? We don't
in my-
We
support,
weren't
we
promoting
do
it.
not
We were talking
support
about other
any
people.
forms of violence on this channel.
No, we don't.
In my defense, I think Mossad keeps on promoting the 100 Days of Sodom on my Amazon recommended.
Oh no.
You're pushing your luck, AI. I gotta say, man, you're pushing your luck.
Should I talk about my topic now, real quick? It's quick.
I hope it's a nice one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. So this is a great one. Trump has revoked security clearances on so many wonderful people. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Biden, Alvin Bragg. Isn't that great? That's all I wanted to
Wonderful.
say. I love
mean,
it.
Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney
Yep.
as well.
Yeah, she's vile.
How come she
You know,
got like protection? I understand her father, but why her?
I think it's because she was on the January 6th committee, and she got protection because of that.
Oh right, okay.
But hang on, hasn't Trump like neutralized those Biden automatic signature pardons? Because I think he has.
Yeah, I know they're investigating it and they're looking into that. I'm not sure. Has something more happened?
They're looking to see.
Right.
Because Biden didn't actually sign them, he just electronically signed them.
Can you guys imagine if that happened on the other side? If Trump, was just there were pardons
would have been put aside. Yeah,
God.
they would have been put aside. Look, the Democrats kept some of those January 6th guys who were invited into the building by the cops, who then shot an unarmed white girl who served in the American Air Force. And the guy got a bravery medal for doing it. And then those guys spent 4 years in dungeons, effectively.
That was such a setup too, because Trump offered to have the National Guard come in, and it was. I mean, that was such a setup. Pelosi
To be fair, Trump should have pardoned them before he left office in 2020, but he didn't. But he should have. But he has pardoned them since.
A weird one was that Robert De Niro, the actor Robert De Niro, paraded that those two Capitol Hill officers around the Bronx just before the election, saying, "These guys are American heroes. These guys are American heroes." And there was like some Italian-American cabbie or something who was leaning out and called him a mook. They say, "You're a fucking mook, De Niro. You're a disgrace to Italians." And that's what I remember from that. There was like a really funny interaction between those
De Niro was a vile lefty.
He made a fool of himself. Yeah.
And has done for years. But yeah. But I'm sorry that Mitch has left us. I hope he comes back. But anyway, he was probably too offended by what we were talking about, because I know Mitch is a fairly shy and retiring sort of chap. But yeah, it's just insanity. All right, before we close, I have to bring up Farage versus Rupert Lowe. And I've been having long discussions with friends of mine and not so friends of mine on this subject. And look, my conclusion is Rupert Lowe ain't going to win, sadly, because he was right. Farage is going to win, sadly, because he was wrong on this. But if Reform managed to win the next election, and I don't know who the hell else we can vote for, will they be strong enough with their Muslim chairman, Youssef, and their increasingly backtracking on what he said he would do leader Farage, will they be strong enough to make any difference? I mean, what do you guys and lady think about this?
Well, I mean, this whole incident, as I said the other week, ING, has destroyed any faith I had in reform, and the course of what's happened subsequently has not redeemed any confidence at all. I think Farage, has been absolutely disgusting towards Lowe and how he's treated him, and all I can say is, there's talks about Lowe potentially joining the Tories. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen because that'd be an absolute disaster. I don't think that will happen, but we'll have to see. No, and I think Farage is a scumbag, and I'm not gonna support reform. Sorry.
I'll be honest. I more or less agree with you, Hitman, but I will probably hold my nose and vote reform because there's no one else to vote for. To be honest, Aaron, what do you think?
I think the whole thing has been a complete balls up from beginning to end. But I would just say to people, like you said, Duke, hold your nose and vote for reform, because if you don't, nothing will change at all.
I'm not sure anything will change if you do, but yeah, as you say, Aaron, nothing will change if you don't. So yeah, but I think Farage was completely in the wrong in this, to be honest. AI, what do you think?
Well, I know like a reform branch chair, I think it was in the Isle of Wight, has resigned. There's been whole teams like in East Anglia and various places throughout the last couple of weeks now who have resigned. I think the most recent one was a couple of days ago that I heard. So, I mean, at this rate, the question is who's Farage going to feel threatened by his fragile,
Next.
little ego next? Yeah, because it could be, it could be Tice for all we know. Who knows? Who will be threatened by him next? And that's the thing. So at this rate, we may not. I mean, we say we'll hold our nose and vote reform. There may not even be a reform to vote for next general election at this rate.
Well, yeah, AI. I mean, Farage had a whole 4 MPs. He could have sat all 4 of those MPs and the scumbag Yousaf around a table and talked about all this in private. Why did he need to do character assassination on Rupert Lowe? He didn't, as far as I'm concerned.
And I think it's
hang on a minute, mate. The funny thing to me is one of the blokes who is supporting Farage vehemently never normally loses his rag. And as far as I can see, the only reason he is losing his rag about this is he's actually as worried about this as I am. But he can't say so, because if he does, the party he's put faith in is fucked, basically. But sorry, I carry on.
Yeah, I mean that there are. I think I know who you mean. There are people who have they put their flags in the Farage camp, and good luck to them. Maybe they'll, maybe
I
they'll.
I hope for Britain's sake that they're right, but I have my grave doubts these days.
Yeah, I think I've already come to my sort of thoughts on that one. But then let's compare Farage to Trump, because we talked about Trump earlier. I mean, Trump has surrounded himself with competent people, not just the loyal ones, but even because everyone talks about Trump's ego, especially in the British media. They have a go at Trump.
Yep.
I mean, Trump has surrounded himself by people who have been very critical. I mean, J.D. Vance called him a threat to America not so long ago.
100%. Also, I totally agree with you on this, by the way. Look at I don't think that Musk was a great Trump fan 5 years ago.
No. I mean, Trump's made peace.
Yeah, you could look at Tulsi Gabbard, another one, not a big Trump fan 5 years ago. Now she's in Trump's team.
I think Trump's tone has changed so much, and that has helped a lot too. with ingratiating himself with these other people.
I think, Aubrey Alley, what Trump's done is he says, I want to do the best possible
Right.
thing for America.
Right. I genuinely believe he really
yeah,
does care
yeah,
that he's a
yeah.
good American, a patriot.
And that's why he's got people like JFK, someone who 5 years ago would never have supported Trump. But
And
these
God,
days,
the Democrats, man, they do not like him. They do not like that he has turned to the Republican
but
Party.
all what I'm trying to talk about here, and what AI and others are talking about, is that Trump has got all these people around him now who don't totally agree with him, but they
Right.
do agree with trying to make America great again, which is really what you should be doing if you want to be a national leader. And in
Right.
Britain's case, that should be Farage.
Because if you surround yourself with yes people, what good
You'll
does
get
that do?
nowhere. You won't
Right.
win. Look at Trump's first administration. In many respects, it failed. But this one, because he's got the right people around him, it's totally doing stuff.
I mean, I don't want to invoke the Austrian painter here. I know he gets invoked a lot with Farage recently, but even with the Austrian painter, I believe when he was in the when Goebbels first came onto the scene, young Goebbels was very critical of the Austrian painter publicly on occasion, and Austrian painter could have thrown him to the side, but he didn't. They sort of worked it out.
Well,
Now,
I'm
not with
no great fan of the Austrian painter, but
I'm not sure what to take from that.
I would say this is that
my point is, Aubrey, the Austrian even the Austrian
everyone
painter
who is
found a way to get along.
everyone, but Trump's managing to get people to support him who didn't originally, whereas Farage is just stabbing people in the back and kicking them overboard if they in any way don't agree with him. It's just insane.
I really think that Trump's that the attempted assassination, the first one with the bullet, hitting his cheek. I think that really brought him down to kind of a more grounded reality. And I've referenced this a few different times, but I was so impressed with him when I saw the interview with him with Greg Gutfeld, because I felt like that was the first time I really saw Trump as just himself. He didn't have the hype and the energy. He just was sitting there very chill, very laid back, just talking about what he the things that were getting in the way, the red tape. And that's where he comes in, as a businessman. He knows how to, get rid of all this excess crap. And our government is so bloated, both of our governments are. And
Yep.
so but I
Totally
think it's grounded him, and I think he's you don't hear the rhetoric that he was throwing out all the time before. He's really kind of, I think, focused in a different way, because I think he truly does believe that he was saved to do this job, and he may have been,
Maybe.
But regardless of whether he was or wasn't, he believes it. And so, I think he believes that he's here for a purpose, and I think he's much more serious now, and just more willing to, he's not calling everybody like names like he did before. So that's helpful.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything you say of reality, and I like Trump, to be honest, I do. But I'm just before we close, because we've been going on over 2 hours now. I just want to hear what Hitman and Aaron Hook think about this and the contrast between Farage and Trump.
Well, I've been watching because Ed Dutton's been doing a series of interviews on his channel with various people who've known Farage, such as Godfrey Bloom, Catherine Blakelock, and Gerald Batten, and it's all they're all just saying Farage unfortunately is controlled opposition. He, back in UKIP's days, he always resigned when the party seemed to be doing well. So, resigned in 2009 after the European parliamentary election. So UKIP did well, and he claimed it's because he was going to run for a seat in Parliament. But that just seems really silly. You lead the party, you don't bail out. And then obviously he resigned as leader in 2016 after the Brexit vote, and it just seems to be like, it's deliberate sabotage. That he's almost like this. He just wants to be a Tory like grifter, and he's just not serious about anything.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with that, AI. Sorry, Hitman. What's your opinion, Aaron?
I think the got to contrast with Trump and Farage is that Trump, for all that he has an ego, he is a pragmatist and he's willing to work with people, whereas Farage has shown himself in, say, the past 25 years as somebody who does not play well with others. And that every political party he's been in, starting with UKIP, is in many ways is the Nigel Farage show, regardless of what he may say or do otherwise. He is, if he's not the centre of attention, he gets very, very angry and starts acting out, as he's shown clearly in the past and at the moment with Lowe.
Yeah, don't disagree with you at all.
But isn't
Aaron.
he still your best bet? I mean, isn't that what you guys have?
Well,
kind of
he's the only
right.
he's the only bet at the moment because there is nobody else. But
right.
I may end up holding my nose hard and voting Reform, but only because there's no one else to vote for. Farage is doing things like every single candidate for Reform has to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. That's not normal in a political party. It just isn't. You should be able to have disagreements on policies, but you can't. Someone's saying, what about the Homeland Party? The Homeland Party have no plans to run enough MPs at the next general election in Britain to form a government. And if they don't, and the uni party of the Labour Socialists and the so-called Conservatives form another government, we'll have another million immigrants in that next 5 years, maybe even 2 million immigrants. So I don't think we can afford to wait that long in Britain. You need to win the next general election. But if Reform wins and they're not willing to make wholesale changes in the civil service, they're not willing to deport all illegal immigrants, and I mean all of them, and also all serious foreign criminals, and Farage is walking that back now, they're not going to do anything fundamentally that will change things. They have to do that, in my humble opinion, because otherwise, I don't know how much longer Britain can be saved. You need something sooner rather than later, or the country that I love and adore will be a dead duck and not capable of being saved. And I'm not sure about Farage anymore. Farage has a long track history of stabbing in the back and destroying people who are anywhere near as popular or as intelligent as he is. And I don't see that as being the way to save Britain. And if Farage was a real patriot who wanted to save Britain, why on earth would he get rid of Rupert Lowe when he could have just sat down with him over dinner and sorted this out privately? And I see excuses from Farage supporters, but I don't believe them, frankly. I just don't believe them. But yeah, that's my view on all this. If anyone else has anything to say, and if Mitch wants to come back, he can absolutely do. Does anyone else have any views on this?
I will just say one thing, that reform isn't the permanent future. It's just a stepping stone. The
That's
sort of
what I think. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree, Aaron Hook. Yeah, totally. It's a stepping stone. Yes.
yeah, the proper party of the right that's going to sort of be the permanent party is probably going to come out of reform, but it will be a faction of reform. It won't be reform itself, and that's probably not going to appear until after the next general election or after that. So reform is the vehicle for the moment.
Yep. Don't disagree with what you say there, Aaron. That's very sensible. Any other views from Hitman or AI?
Well, one last thing I'll say is obviously we've got the by-election in the former Labour MP Mike Amesbury's seats, and all I'll say is that the real test of how much of a mess up this was from Farage will be whether Reform win that seat or not, because if they don't win it, then that just shows you how disastrous this was, because they really should win that seat if they were playing their cards right.
Yeah, I agree, Hitman. Totally right. AI?
Yeah, I agree with Hitman. I know there was a council by-election recently, and the Conservatives held on to it, and Reform came second, and it was in a part of I think it was up in the north. So it was one of those seats where Reform should have won that quite easily. So I know that there are people out there who say that, well, it's all online stuff, it's all terminally online. I think people who go, oh, it's all terminally online, I think that's a bit of a coping mechanism, to be honest, because let's be honest, how many people today are tuned into, the three main channels, like they were 30, 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, I should probably say more accurately.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, AI. I hear this all the time, but then I talk to people like Mitch and Aaron Hook, and Morgoth up in Newcastle, and you know what? Ordinary British people who are in daily contact with the vast mass immigration that comes in, they're much more radical than some of the supporters of Farage think they are. They're much more radical.
I've seen colleagues at my workplace on Facebook, because a lot of them are that sort of, they use Facebook. Where I've seen screen shares, like someone's taken a photo of a Morgoth tweet and been sharing it around Facebook, or like on various like sites and everything. The most common one I see of Morgoth is when he actually said like Amazon spent this much on Rings of Power, and instead people just wanted to watch this, and it was like Clarkson's farm, and Clarkson was just like chasing a pig around in muck or something. I'm just seeing Morgoth tweets on like screen shares on Facebook. So as I say, I don't believe in this terminally online stuff. I think
No.
that's just cope. Yeah.
It is. It's cope, and it's this idea. The British people won't support mass deportations. Bullshit. The British people will totally support mass deportations. And anyone who doesn't believe this is either deluding themselves, or they are some sort of containment. That's my honest opinion on this. But yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much to my guests this evening, Mitch, Hitman, AI, and Aubrey Alley. And we'll be back on Wednesday with a historic stream. Don't know what the subject's going to be yet, because I am trying to get the members of my Discord to suggest it, because mine will just be mine,
I'm available this week, and
What do you want to do, mate?
well, actually, we could do. Should we do the Battle of Copenhagen? Would that be
Sure.
one? I didn't.
I'm
Something
more
like that?
I'm more than happy to do that. I mean, the two subjects I do want to do Imperial Federation at some stage, because I think that's interesting and it's a lost chance for Britain and the old white Commonwealth.
Hmm.
And I'll happily do the War of 1812 and that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
we can do Copenhagen. I mean, we should certainly do all of Nelson's great victories. So if you want to do that,
Yeah.
AI, we'll do that for sure.
Yeah.
Duke Valentino has been asking some interesting questions in the chat. And I
Yeah.
will just answer a couple of them. The first one is, yes, Vikings was feminist bullshit because of shield maidens. Like in Norse mythology, shield maidens are myths. There is never any suggestion that, you know, there were lots of female Viking warriors. So yeah, the Vikings TV show was absolute bullshit. You also asked Duke Valentino about the Last Kingdom, which was, you know, Alfred the Great successfully defending England against the Norse invasions. That the books are okay. The TV series started off okay, but the third series onwards is just feminist bullshit all the way through. The last movie they made, Seven Kings Must Die, was actually pretty good. But that's my opinion.
You have to watch Bernard Cornwell because he flirts with shit livery a lot, even in Sharp.
He does. Absolutely. Sharp is this horrible. What's the word they use for all these guys who give money to the fots on OnlyFans?
What, simp?
Simp. Yeah, but Bernard Cornwell's an awful simp, and he makes Sharp an awful simp all the way through his books. He does.
Yeah.
I remember reading the novels, and Bernard Cornwell seems to not like the British aristocracy. That's all I have to say from what I remember reading Sharp novels.
Yeah. But yeah, Bernard Cornwell
like
is inclined to simpery. He really is. Some of his history is quite accurate. Other bits, not so much.
I get the feeling that he was like betrayed, like emotionally, by a very blonde, busty female at some point in his life.
That sounds like me at least 4 times, but okay.
Yeah, but you got over it. You didn't like corrupt, like make horrific stories about. Actually, one thing that Duke Valentino did ask is like, what were our thoughts on the Danelaw Imperium? Do you think Norse had much of the Norse had a long-term influence over English culture? As I say, I support Team Wessex, so I'm against Danelaw in that regard. Now, do I think Norse had a much long-term effect? I don't think so. And the reason I'd say that is St. Brice Day's massacre did sort of finish that. In my view.
Well, and the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and
yeah, that's my response to that. Those 2 bits, but yeah.
The American Counter-Revolution, the TV series is not as good as the books, but as we were just saying, Bernard Cornwell is really inclined to simpery. He really is, and some of his stuff is not right. Like if you read about the real Peninsular War between Wellington's army and the French, the Brits didn't. Yes, they could fire 3 rounds a minute. They could. They were highly trained professional soldiers. But generally, what the Brits did was fire 1 or 2 volleys and then launch a bayonet charge, and that tumbled the French down the hill that Wellington had put his troops on the other side of, and that's what won the battles. So, there you go. Aubrey Alley, anything? Final thoughts?
No, just thank you for having me on tonight. It was fun.
You're all-
This was a fun
you're-
show. AI,
you're always-
you were
you're always-
very funny today. Oh, sorry, my little bird's going crazy. AI, you were very funny today.
You're always most welcome, Aubrey Alley.
Thank you.
It's nice to have a feminine
Thank
voice on the show.
Thank you.
Because you're more kind than most men are, which is a good thing so long as you're not in political power. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, I think we've answered all of those. I will go and have a check just in case we had any super chats via Entropy. Apparently
I know. I'm
not.
sorry. I see the screech comment on there. I'm so sorry. She's very loud.
Yeah, she's a miniature macaw, basically. She's also got 2 budgies and she's getting a 3rd rescue budgie, apparently. So there you go.
Well, maybe.
Right.
I'm not sure, but maybe.
I hope
Hopefully.
so.
He's very cute. Bungie is his name.
Little green budgie, like the natural ones are. Anyway, leaving all that aside, I'm going to play us out with a bit of a tune, guys. This is from Patriotic Archive. Excellent channel on YouTube. Please go and check him out. Really good. Okay, that was Romica, which is the quick march of the 2nd Battalion South Staffordshire Regiment. And I know that Aaron Hook and also Mitch are from that part of the world. So there we go. And that was from Patriotic Archive. Please go and check out his channel. I'll just, before we close, ask our panel if they have anything they want to shill. So Hitman, anything you would like to shill in terms of your channel, etc.?
Yes, I have a weekly show every Tuesday, the Archival Discourses. Next week, I will be reading through some Ibn Khaldun, who is an Arab scholar, and looking at his concept of asabaya, or social cohesion, the decline and fall of civilizations and their ability to maintain, cohesion. And also, I'm doing a new series, History on Modern Iran. I did a sort of an episode 0 introduction earlier today, looking at a pre-modern Iran, and then I'm going to be joined by my friend Hunger as we go through that. So that'll be 1501, the rise of Shah Ismail I, the founder of the Safavid dynasty, all the way to the era of the modern Islamic Republic. So if you're interested in that, give that a watch.
Yeah, I caught some of that stream, Hitman, and it was really good. I would suggest people go and check that. Aubrey Alley, anything you wanted to plug?
Nope, but I will soon, because I think I've got Aaron Hook and Mitch doing a podcast with me shortly. So we'll reveal soon.
Cool. Look forward to that. Aaron Hook, anything you would like to plug, sir?
Yeah, I did a live stream earlier this evening with Peter Wheeler, who's better known on X as Paul. Which was enjoyable. He's a member of the Social Democratic Party, so we just discussed his experiences standing for election and his view of politics. And then tomorrow I'll be doing a live stream at 6 p.m. British time with an Irish author called Andrew Verlaine discussing his debut novel, which is called Stigma Play, which should be interesting.
Yeah, Aaron Hook has a really interesting channel, particularly if you're interested in literary stuff or also sometimes films and TV. So do go and check out Aaron Hook. AI, anything you'd like to plug, mate?
Just my channel, and the Richard Hilton series we're covering. We're going to get back round to that. I was going to say, and I'm close. I think I'm close to 800 subscribers. So that'll be a nice push if we can get that to 800. If
Everybody's
we
sub to AI and get them to 1,000 subs.
Yep.
don't, come on. If I can't get to 1,000 subs, I will do a book review of the 100 days of salt. 120 days of Sodom. I will
God.
do it.
God,
Oh my
that
gosh, I
would
cannot
actually
That would
be
great.
interesting. I'm not sure how you'll do it on YouTube, but yeah, all right.
I will do it. I'm a madman, so you're gonna have to stop me from doing it. So
You're so like
this is-
gentlemanly, and then oh god, I'm sorry, you guys. You're so gentlemanly. Stop it. Oh, she won't stop. You're so
My
gentlemanly.
ears.
For you to read that would be really great.
Ow!
Sorry, I'm muting now. Sorry, guys. Bye bye.
So yeah, that'd be yeah. If I do get to 1,000 I'll give an ultimatum. 22nd of April. There you go. So exactly like in a month's time.
Okay, well, I would just say, guys, to avoid that, let's get AI to 1,000 subscribers, because I don't know how you review that book on YouTube, to be honest. I really don't. It's probably the most disgusting book I've ever read. But anyway. Yeah. So, okay, before we close, please, guys.
Wait, was I just called a winch?
By whom?
Because of my bird? Or are you talking about something? I think so. Sorry,
Oh,
you guys. She's really loud. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, you really shouldn't have that bird in the room, baby, when you're gonna.
Well, I was outside and it got cold.
Oh, okay then. Someone said, "Have mercy, wench."
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah, but they were saying "have mercy" because it's loud.
I've never been called a wench before.
There you go. You obviously never worked in a bar, but anyway, okay. I would just say, guys, please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Like, we are struggling up towards 2,000 subscribers, and it would be great if you'd subscribe, please. And it doesn't cost you anything. So there you go. I will just have another quick check in case we got any chats. All right. If you sent us a chat and it's not come through yet, my apologies. But I promise I'll read it out on our next stream on Wednesday. Okay. Don't know what else to say about that. Thank you very much to my guests, All Reality, Mitch, Hitman AI, and Aaron Hook. We'll be back on Wednesday with a history stream. Come and join us for that. And in the meantime, don't let the bastards grind you down. Go well, guys. And girls.
Oh well.
Good night.